Hello everybody and welcome to another Peteman Reviews. Today we have the Make Toys Robot Mobile Crane, part of Giant Type 61. As you can see, Mobile Crane is obviously a third-party version of the Constructicon Hook, which combined will form Devastator. So in this version, Hook, or Mobile Crane if you will, forms quite a sizable toy. The crane is considerably larger than the original G1 version, considerably more detailed as well. If I just bring him up close, you can see there's all kinds of little moulds going on here. You've got little windows here. The wheels do all move, they've all got treads on them. You've got more windows here, little ladders detailed, all the detail on the front, and on the hook itself, or on the crane part itself. Obviously there aren't any pulleys, but it's got all the gear to give the impression of having pulleys as well for it. The actual crane does work. It is a movable crane that you can put in various poses. As you can see, you've got quite a lot of option there. That's considerably more than I've seen in pretty much any other toy which features a crane. Certainly considerably more than the original, which did have a crane which went up and down. I think it might even have extended, but certainly nothing like this. Probably would be a bit unstable if you picked anything up, as there aren't any moving out, but that is quite a lot. The crane is actually fully detachable, and you do need to detach it for the transformation sequence as well. So why not detach it now then, as it's already been detached. So we'll just close it like so. As you saw, on this side of the crane is Hook's gun, which just clips on. It's a little bit of an awkward clip on in that where it goes, it does kind of interfere a little bit with there. However, it's somewhere to store the weapon. This chunky bit here is actually Devastator's head, which comes attached to Hook. It doesn't really get in the way. It just looks a little bit awkward, particularly without the hook. It's very obvious for it. Nevertheless, it's not too bad. So in terms of transforming, so we start off by just doing that. Very simple transformation to begin with. And then this whole front section here rises up. So it kind of looks like a digger. It's obviously not, but as you can see, that whole section there rises up. What you now need to do, you do just need to be a little bit careful about how you do some of these, because the way they transform is also likely to be the way, because he's got a Devastator mode as well, so you need to be a little bit careful of some of those sections. Okay, so where are we? We're now here. What we now need to do is we need to move this piece up. So if you can see, it's attached like that. It will come up. It's just being a little bit awkward about it. You can see there's a little thing that flips in there. I'm just going to push that in, just to make sure that it clears. I think it would have cleared it anyway, but just to make sure. That then flips up like that. If we turn him over, you've got here, you can see these are obviously going to become legs of sort, so we need to detach them like that, and then swivel this around. And now it's obviously a foot. Same on that one. And there we are. So we've kind of got the foot element of Hook all ready now. Obviously there's still more to do. It's not just finished. We're not all done yet. In actual fact, I'm just thinking which is probably the easiest way to have the right way to have the feet. I think it probably is going to be this way to have the feet. So we'll leave those like those for now. I know it's not going to be fully stable in that mode, but now we need to start with the arms. So you can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at here already with the arms. So it's these elements, with this being the chest here. So what we need to do is just pull these apart like that. Now, see what I mean? This is the Devastator bit, which flips over, so his whole body flips in half. If that happens, don't worry about it, it just flips back in there. It's just something to be a bit aware of. With the arms, I think what's probably the right way of doing it is actually to pull the arms up as well, because you see the way these are attached in here, the way that slots in there, there's no way of putting it out. It kind of needs to go up. It's a little bit fiddly. There's lots of little bits which kind of interconnect, but you can kind of see what I'm trying to do here. There we are. Actually, it's all a question of leverage. That pops up like that. Now we can separate the arms. There we go. And rotate them down like that. So you should end up with the wheel sticking up here. Same deal with this side. That's fine. And then these just unhook there. Head left. You can kind of see how the head is now, can't you? It's a little bit more obvious. It's here. It's round, rotates, and then we just move like that. Okay. Hook is in his basic robot mode now. Pretty good. Now there's a few more bits to go. Not least of which, he needs his weapon. I say because it looked like it was going to be that bit that goes in. It's actually this bit that sits in here. Annoyingly, the weapon is a bit longer than Hook himself is. I think it might possibly be better to hold it in this hand. Just slot it in. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a pain about slotting in. It's kind of a square peg into a round hole. It does go in, but his weapon is actually a little bit too big for him, because as you can see it stops his arm going up. Never mind, it's a minor issue. Okay, so we now have the crane element left. Now there's quite a lot you can do with the crane for it. It just depends on what you want to do. Our instructions here give us stick it on the back that side, stick it on the top, stick it on there. You've got other options. He doesn't just have to have it stuck on his back. He could do, in which case I think what it's telling us is this goes in there. Yeah. So he could just have it on his back like that, which is okay. It quite heavily unbalances the robot, and it makes him extremely tall. But that is one way of doing it. Alternatively, he could have it the other way round. Which perhaps looks is perhaps the better way of having it. It's not quite so tall. It does again seem to unbalance him quite a lot. Or you don't have to have it attached at all. You've got a variety of options. He doesn't just have to have it stuck on him, which is all right. It does give you a few options for that. Equally, what you could look at doing, I think that should be stuck up there. I suppose it can go down. It doesn't really make a difference. See that part there? It will even go onto a tab there. So I don't know if I held that right across, but there's a tab there. So many tabs on this crane here. You've got so many different options where you can locate it. You can have it across his back. I'm not sure why. As I say, it can even be used as a weapon. It's kind of a bit bulky for it, but again, you probably can't see what I'm doing. If I hold that there, you can. I can feel that gun was going to come out. It was just a little bit tricky to hold in. The whole thing's a little bit tricky side. Okay, so it's not a very secure connection, but he could, and I would imagine balance him is going to be quite tricky. But we'll have a go. We're almost there, aren't we? Not quite though. Okay, so it is kind of home back, but you can use it as a massive, what would you call it? Piece of wood almost? I know it's a hook, but you can use it as a weapon itself. So there's quite a lot you can do with the hook. I have to be honest, none of them look ideal. It's kind of a little bit, where does this piece go? But he does have some options. I think the one that they suggest is the default, and certainly the one that seems to fit the most without causing the least destabilisations, to have it on his back like that. So there we go. I'm going to leave his gun off at the moment because it's frankly starting to irritate me, the fact that it keeps on. It doesn't really quite fit. But never mind. So, there we are. There is Hook. So in terms of posability, his arms have got quite good posability. They can go like that. His fists don't move at all, but his arms are quite good posability. You can't. That's kind of where he struggles. Is that kind of bit, but they're pretty good. Head is good. It does feel a little bit. His neck's a bit large, but otherwise, it's one of the clearest head of all the Constructicons. As for his legs, he can go like that. He's got some huge knees on him. Makes huge kneecaps, but he can do that. His waist doesn't swivel. That's the one, the limiting factor with the Devastator mode. Because his waist actually hinges in half to make Devastator. I'm sure if I can take the hook off, there we are. Because it does that, the loss is the fact there's no swivel. But that's relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. There we are, I'll just put the hook back on. So, we stand him up so he doesn't fall over. You see, he's a little bit unsteady, mainly because of this thing at the back. There's not a lot you can do with it. That's the trade-off, I guess. You have something that looks really, really good in robot mode, and actually has some good functionality with Devastator as well. It's just a bit oversized for the robot version of Hook, but never mind. So in terms of size comparison, with Combiner Wars Smokescreen and Generation 1 Commemorative Skywarp, as you can see, he is significantly larger than they are. He's probably the largest of all the Constructicons. Maybe Mixmaster is on par with him, but he is quite a large Constructicon. So the Hook, the mobile crane version, is a bulky toy. It looks good. It's considerably larger than the original version and considerably more detailed. And if you look at the robot version here as well, bear in mind he's bending over a little bit. He's much bigger than the other guys around him. And that works quite well, I think. There's nothing wrong with that. In terms of detail, I'll just zoom in a bit. So, the head is by far the most detailed of all of them, and actually so are the arms. Everything about him is detailed. It is perhaps a little bit compromised with the Devastator parts, namely the fact you've got this head here, which really does start to look a little bit out of place. I appreciate the fact they wanted to keep it as part of the toy and not have it as an extra, but it does seem a little bit of a compromise too far when you have Hook by himself. I like the wheels and the way they form on the arms. I think that looks particularly good. The great big hook itself, it doesn't really go with the robot. I know they give you lots of options where to put it, but wherever you put it, it overbalances the toy a bit. And because it doesn't have... It will connect to him in quite a lot of places, but none of them seem quite right. He can't really wield it as a weapon, or if he does, he can kind of wield it and fall over. So it doesn't quite go with the toy version of it. That said, once you've got him posed like that, he looks a pretty good character as well. A little bit reminiscent of Motormaster, which I guess comes from the square head and the wheels on the shoulders. I don't know. What do you think? It just looks a little bit like that to me. But in terms of detail, it is really good. It's probably... I don't know, is it the best of the Constructicons? In some ways, yes. In terms of that, it has the arms. I know they don't have quite the level of manoeuvrability of others, but nevertheless, the arms and the head, and probably the chest, are the best, I think. His legs do let him down a bit. The huge knee pads and the fact that it's, you saw the fact that it's not particularly balanceable. Balanceable may not be a word. But because you've got all of this going on here, he kind of needs a really level, here we go, take it off again. He really needs a very level surface to stand on, which this is, but even then you can see that he overbalances a bit. Whereas when we saw Scrapper, because he had those flexible feet, he was by far the most stable of them. And actually, those kind of feet are what you need when you've got something like this to try to counterbalance. If you're just having straight like that, he actually stands up fine like that, but the instant you put this on, it starts to overbalance. So he's probably the second best in some respects, best in others. Feet do let him down a little bit. Good toy, definitely a good toy. Obviously a crucial part of Devastator as he forms the chest and the head functions of Devastator. And I don't feel he's been too much compromised by that. This is the only compromised part here, is the actual Devastator's head. And I suppose if he can't twist at the waist because of the form mode you need here to form. But then again, you know, it's still quite new having Transformers that can twist at the waist, aren't we? We're still used to not having any functionality at all in the legs, so the fact that so many can move at the waist highlights the ones when they can't, but I don't really think that's too much of a problem here. So mobile crane mode is brilliant, robot mode is pretty good as well. I don't think he's particularly compromised by them, and together him, Mixmaster and Scrapper, of the 6 of them, those 3 are the ones which do not feel particularly compromised by the need to go into Devastator mode. The other 3 felt like they were a bit compromised in one form or another to produce Devastator. So there we are, that is the Make Toys Giant Type 61 robot mobile crane. Thank you very much for watching. Please do leave any comments below and click on the other links, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you. Goodbye.